Hello everyone and welcome back to the Football Tribe UG channel. Robert Kesakos is your usual suspect once again. I hope you're enjoying the weekend because it is already commiserations for Arsenal fans just as much as it is for the Manchester City fans following their defeats on match day 10 of the Premier League. What a horrible performance from Arsenal. I mean, just a poor performance. Liverpool are making headway in this title chase after that 2-1 victory against Brighton, while Manchester City were suffering the 2-1 defeat against FC Bournemouth. In the early kickoff, Newcastle beat up against Arsenal by a goal to nil. Alexander Isak, towering high above all the Arsenal defenders, to head home past David Raya from that Anthony Gordon cross. A very beautiful result for Newcastle. It pushes them further up the table, just 3 points behind Arsenal. By the time we conclude match day 10, Arsenal could easily have dropped to 6th place on the Premier League table should Chelsea go ahead and meet up against Manchester United on Sunday, and should Aston Villa get any result other than a defeat from their fixture against Tottenham Hotspur on Super Sunday. So that's how horrible it is for this Arsenal side. It's too early in the season. I mean, we still have a whopping 28 games to play, but it is increasingly starting to feel that the title is already slipping out of Arsenal's hands. Liverpool are increasingly becoming the likelier side to outcompete Manchester City. If there is any team that will throw off Manchester City off a 5th consecutive Premier League title this season. Anyways, at St. James's Park, Newcastle got the only goal of the game. In the first half, Arsenal looked devoid of ideas. They looked devoid of spirit. They didn't have the grit. They lacked purpose. They didn't have the tenacity. They just didn't give it their all. When they tried in the final 10 minutes of the game, Newcastle sat really deep and defended their goal really well, and they just denied Arsenal spaces in the final third. Arsenal just kept popping the ball around. So many back passes, playing it between Gabriel Magalhaes, William Saliba, and all that backline. Thomas Partey having as many touches as one would hope for, but all of that counting for nothing at the end of the day because they could not create any chances. Ethan Nwaneri was brought on to sort of add in a creative spice into the game, but that did just not work out as planned. Gabriel Martinelli was withdrawn on earlier because things weren't clicking for him. Mikel Merino was struggling through the game. Declan Rice was so selfish in certain moments. They lacked pace. They just didn't play that ball quick enough. They really played to Newcastle's strength, always giving them the time to reorganize themselves in terms of defending, and they created quite a low block and defended well every time Arsenal attempted to attack. I do not know when Mikel Arteta is going to sit down with his coaching staff and realize that this double pivot of Mikel Merino and Declan Rice is not working at all. That while it worked for him to play Thomas Partey at right back against Liverpool, it may not serve him the same purpose in each and every game. I mean, you're playing a team like Newcastle. Despite being away from home, they are not the same caliber with Liverpool. Whereas you may accord them some respect, I do not see why you need to play a double pivot of Mikel Merino and Declan Rice, which becomes a triple pivot when Thomas Partey inverts into the midfield. I mean, you didn't need to do that, because from my own observation, and perhaps to as many as other Arsenal fans out there, or football pundits, or all those that love the game, I think we can all agree that neither of Thomas Partey nor Declan Rice, in addition to Mikel Merino, is that creative a player. As much as Thomas Partey is good playing those advanced passes, is not one you can rely on to be your creative midfielder. And Mikel Merino has so far shown us that he's not going to be that, even when he's still trying to find his footing in the Premier League. For Declan Rice, we've known that for quite a good period of time, long before he even signed for this Arsenal side. So clearly, ever since Arsenal lost Martin Odegaard to injury, they've looked devoid of ideas. They've lost their creativity. They've lost the fancy side of them. They are no longer playing that, quick passive football. They're not creating as many chances as you'd hope that they would create in the game. Yes, they've given Leandro Trossard in that role to try and help out, but again, it's not his cup of tea. At least we've seen that over time. You wonder why Arsenal signed a senior player like Raheem Sterling that cannot be thrown on or to be trusted to even be the game changer on a match day like this when things are not really working out. So it's looking like Mikel Arteta is getting, I don't know, his tactics wrong at the moment. The team is lacking spirit. The team is they're just not they're just a shadow of the team that we've known for the last 2 seasons or even 3. So Mikel Arteta may need to find answers sooner than later. Otherwise, that pressure is going to boil. Now, they've lost 2 games, losing to Bournemouth and now losing to Newcastle. They had a draw in there against Liverpool. They did share the spoils against Manchester City. They did share the spoils with Brighton. That's too many points dropped in the first 10 games of the season. It is looking like Liverpool are pulling away. They're now 7 points ahead in what may turn out to be a tight title race. You do not need to give that much leverage away. The next fixture in the Premier League is away to Chelsea, who I cannot sit here and guarantee that given the way they are playing that they will go to Stamford Bridge and get a decent result. Last season they could only manage a 2-all draw at the same ground. We all came into today's game knowing that Arsenal lost last season at St James's Park in a controversial manner by a similar score, but one would have hoped that they would have fared or given them a better chance to get a better result than the one they got last season. But it just didn't happen for them. So, midweek, of course, their focus will be on the UEFA Champions League when they make the trip to Italy to play Inter Milan. But soon rather than later, it will be Chelsea at Stamford Bridge before the international break. I'm sure Arsenal fans won't sit around wait until when Martin Odegaard returns and they play some exciting football. If anything, we all know that players returning from injury sometimes take longer to click. Sometimes they suffer injury setbacks that keep them out for much longer than we would have hoped. So clearly, Mikel Arteta needs to find those answers sooner rather than later. I think I could only point to one particular game this season in terms of the UEFA Champions League and the Premier League where Arsenal have looked exciting. And that was the game against Leicester, which they won by 4-2. But if you remember, the 2 winning goals of the match also came late on in the game. While they had been dominant in the first half, they went on to concede 2, funny goals in the second half, and it was 2-2 until late on. So clearly, Mikel Arteta needs to have a moment of self-reflection in regards to the direction that this team is going through. Otherwise, things are just not clicking for them at the moment. As we speak, they've already been leapfrogged by Nottingham Forest, who beat up against West Ham by 3-0 on the day. So, just to give you a quick run of results, a 1-0 defeat to the Arsenal. Liverpool beating up against Brighton by 2-1. Brighton had a very exciting first half. They could have scored 4 goals in that single first half, but they did not make all their chances count, and they were made to pay for that in the second half. I think when Cody Gakpo and Mo Salah scored in a space of 2 minutes to make the difference in that particular fixture. West Ham United down to 10 men, losing to Nottingham Forest, who have now moved to 3rd place with 19 points. They are beating them by 3-0, and then Ipswich Town sharing the spoils with Leicester City in a 1-all draw, while Everton suffered a defeat against Southampton. Southampton recording their first victory of the season by beating Everton by 1-0. And in the late kickoff, at halftime, it was 0-0 between Wolverhampton Wanderers and Crystal Palace. I mean, Crystal Palace are really, really struggling to score goals. Wolves on the other side, the Ryan Atnoria has just not been sharp to create the chances when he got those run-throughs. And then, so here's a brief look at the Premier League table. Like I said, Liverpool continue to dominate at the top of the table. They've moved back into that top spot with 25 points. Manchester City in 2nd place with 23 points, despite their loss to Bournemouth by 2-1. And then Of course, Nottingham Forest do come third with 19 points. Arsenal fourth temporarily because, like I said, a draw or a victory for Aston Villa could see them leapfrog Arsenal just as much as if Chelsea go ahead to beat up against Manchester United on Super Sunday. So, by the time we go for the international break, who knows, Arsenal could be lacking in the bottom first half of the table. It's not looking pretty for Mikel Arteta, and he needs to find solutions sooner rather than later. Otherwise, Arsenal are not looking to be the title contenders that we had hoped that they would be at the start of the season. Never mind that my prediction was that Manchester City will win this Premier League title. But Liverpool has something to say about it. We'll wait and see. Do let me know what your thoughts are. And if you're new to the channel, do not forget to subscribe, like, comment, and share. And I'll see you next time. Stay blessed and have a wonderful rest of the weekend.